How you convinced Indian firms to go for Salesforce?
We started the local instance of what we call Hyperforce, which is basically where your data resides. So we had to do a few things ourselves in order to match up with the expectations of industry.
What exactly is required? A man of steel, competence to, come to a level where you can think of being in a leadership position.
First of all, you don't need to be a man of steel at all. But I do think you have to lead from the front. In times of crisis, people expect you to be in the front and to give direction.
If a CEO is leading it, what are the traits you would like to, you see that, the CEO should be having?
Making this the CEO's priority is very important. Whether he's delegating or he's doing it himself. And if he's doing it himself, the way that I would like to see it is that he really understands what he wants, that he's not vague about, what the last outcome should be. He's very clear about what the use cases are.
How is it working with different generations?
Their priorities, by the way, are very different from our priorities. And to say that they are wrong is also not correct. So not only that, because their work-life balance is very important. We used to work like crazy, and I don't know whether it was the right thing to do.
So what would your advice be for students or maybe this generation which is growing up with a smartphone?
A friend of mine, in fact, has named her ChatGPT friend GPT. I told her that please stop interacting with that friend and interact more with this friend.
She joined the State Bank of India in 1977 as a probationary officer. Over the next 36 years, she rose through every rank in one of the world's largest banking institutions. And in 2013, became the first woman to be appointed its chairman. She took SBI through one of the most turbulent periods in Indian banking, earned the Padma Shri, and when she was done, chose not to rest. She chose to reinvent. I have goosebumps when I think about it, and today that chairperson and CEO of Salesforce India, she sits at the intersection of technology, business and a country she has watched transform across 5 decades. This is TOI AIQ Talks. I am Sonia Singh and you're watching TOI AIQ Talks, the series where we sit down with the people who have shaped India's economic and technological story to have the conversations that matter. Today, we have a conversation I have been personally looking forward to because our guest has not just witnessed India's journey, she has been a part of making it. Guest today needs very little introduction, but she deserves every word of it. She began her career at the State Bank of India in 1977, and over 36 extraordinary years, she rose to become its first woman chairman. Under her leadership, SBI navigated some of the most complex years in Indian banking. She has been awarded the Padma Shri by the Government of India. She has been listed among Fortune's most powerful women in business globally. And today, as chairperson and CEO of Salesforce India, she is at the forefront of India's AI transformation. Arundhati Bhattacharya, welcome to TOI AIQ Talks.
Thank you. Thank you for such a glowing introduction.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And also with us today is Mayank, co-founder and CEO of ADROSONIC, a business-focused technology consulting and services company that helps organizations translate AI from technological capability into measurable business outcomes. And Mayank has also worked with Salesforce, so we'll take that experience also. We'll start with you, ma'am. From a third world country to one of the most fastest growing economies, you've seen it all. And you have been one of the contributors in India's success stories. If you can just take us through those transformation of 5 decades and how the banking has changed from deposit-led banking to now investment-led banking.
Well, it's not only been a question of deposit-led banking to investment-led banking. It's also been the way we have expanded banking services to cover so much more of the country. It's the way in which we have innovated on products, some of which are not available anywhere else in the world. The way we have started using so many more tools. Everything was manual when I came on. And in fact, one of the stories that I often tell is, Bengali brides, they wear a red and a white bangle. The red bangle is made of lac and the white bangle is made of conch shell. They are very fragile. So if you hit them against something, they break. And we used to have those huge ledgers, and the very first set I wore broke. And then, you get superstitious. People are superstitious around you. They say, it's not a good omen kind of stuff. So I stopped wearing them altogether. I never wore them after that.
Okay.
Because that's what we had to do. We had to lift these huge, heavy ledgers, which were almost a menace. But that's what we wrote our stuff in. It wasn't all, the kind of sanitized environment that you see today with keyboards and people clicking away at it. And it was very, very different. We didn't have air conditioners. We didn't have any of that stuff. And the crowds were huge. The footfalls were huge. So from there to where we have come today, which is 24/7 by 365 banking, the products, as I told you, things like SIPs were not even thought of. In fact, even during my time, we didn't even have education loans. Means I went straight away from college into a job because there were no education loans, and my father had retired, so there was no pension as well. So I had to have a job instead. Today, if it had been, today instead, I'm sure I would have tried for an MBA degree, because a lot of my friends went on to IIM Calcutta, and I was very jealous about them. And the only time, by the way, I felt vindicated was when I went and gave a convocation address at IIM Calcutta. So that was good.
Such interesting stories you have, in fact, in the book that you've written. I mean, one just cherishes them, reading them, and, gets so much of motivation. Also, do you think India faced, the technological adoption was a little slow in India? Had it been faster, things would have worked better?
See, I think India is almost always a little slow to start. But once it starts, it's very quick.
Is it political? Slow to
It's
start?
more, I think, a mindset.
Okay.
A mindset which is careful of the fact that it has less resources and therefore wants to maximize on them. We don't have, oversupply of capital. Capital is scarce, and people want to be very sure about value before they sort of step into it. But you saw during COVID, when COVID actually broke, and on the 23rd of March, 2020, when the lockdown was announced, at that point of time, I understand we had less than 100 test kits. By next year, when the Delta wave came, we were not only had test kits, PPEs, the personal protection equipments, which we didn't have when it started. At that point of time, we were exporting them at 2/3 of the cost of a neighboring country. Okay.
Even vaccines.
Even vaccines.
Yeah.
Look at the way, I think we saved millions of people with the vaccines that we sent out. So, when the adoption starts, I think it's pretty quick. But to get off the starting block, I think sometimes, yes, we are a little delayed.
And you've been saying the more tech we use, the better the experience for business as well as the customers.
True.
So do you see a change now in terms of, post-COVID? Yes, of course. But before that also, do you think people were susceptible to change, or are they now getting ready for it?
So I think, change is not really that much of a challenge in India.
What I'm asking this is that few public sector banks, even now, they haven't changed much.
No, they haven't.
So why? I mean, why?
So I think the reason for that is more a fear. And the fear is more of the unknown rather than the known. And one issue that the public sector banks have is that they have people at the top for a very short periods of time. When you have a person heading a bank for 2 years or less, that person can rarely put through a change agenda. I was very, very lucky that I was given 3 years and then a year's extension, so I got 4 years. So 4 years actually is a substantial period of time when you can really put through an agenda of change. Not everybody gets that time. And the second thing I think is that the public sector banks themselves, they have to be prodded a little, because they are basically expected to be very conservative. A lot of questions are asked as to why they have taken certain decisions No questions are asked as to why certain decisions were not taken.
Not-
So, not taking a decision actually becomes a more attractive proposition than taking a decision, because not taking a decision is not going to be questioned, and they don't want to be questioned, obviously. Nobody wants to be. So, I think in that space, adoption has just about begun. But I can tell you one thing, that when it begins in full force, it will happen very quickly. Because I don't think there is any lack of talent, nor is there lack of resources. They can do things if they want to. But yes, at this point of time, I would not say that, they are at the cutting edge.
Yeah, because private banks are doing so good. In fact, PSBs don't even have a public cloud policy, or I have seen people still using passbooks in
That's
this
true.
age. Yeah.
That's true. See, passbooks, of course, may be a thing of the past, but some people really cherish it. Some people I know of our generation cherish it, not me, but others do. But as you rightly say, a lot of them don't have a cloud policy, especially a public cloud policy. I don't think a lot of them have also gone in depth to understand what a public policy means. They feel that if you have an on-prem system that's air-gapped, that gives you sufficient amount of security. It doesn't. What I would like to say is that, when you are on the public cloud, you have to, in very layman's language, I would like to explain it like this, that if you are staying in a bungalow, the security is all your own. Nobody else is going to look out for it. Okay. If you are staying in a bungalow in a gated community, you have two layers of security, your own as well as the boundary security. And if you're on a public cloud, it's like staying in an apartment in one of those multi-towered complexes. So you have the boundary security, you have the building security, and you have your security. So basically 3 layers of security. And if you just, put that into what we are doing, we ride on AWS infrastructure. Okay, so AWS, because it's a company that's providing you these services, they are scanning the world 24/7 by 365. And if something happens somewhere, they are firewalling immediately to make sure that doesn't hit them. Second is our own security. Even though we ride on them, we have our own security layer, and we are doing the same thing, and making sure that things are safe. And then, of course, it's the customer. They have their own security layer as well. So you have 3 layers of security. And today, the more layers you have, the more experts are looking at your, databases and making sure things are secure, the better off you are. Because if you have it on-prem, it's only you that have to look into it. And God forbid, should something happen, you are at it alone. You're not getting, people who are looking at it globally and helping you out. Of course, you can always hire such firms and get it done, but it's not going to be something that's immediate or anything of the sort. So I think we have to take these things very, very, seriously, and make sure that people understand what exactly is secure, what is not secure, what is less secure, what is more secure. All these questions need answering.
Mayank, you wanted to ask?
Yeah, I was just asking, you mentioned that change is easy, but in our experience, when we work with enterprises, we have always found that, getting technology implemented has been the easier part. But letting people or the organization embrace through that change and adoption has always been the key challenge. And in fact, the tools like Salesforce, which is so, user intuitive, you can use it, learn on its own, just like you can learn Facebook. You don't need training to learn Facebook. And Salesforce brings that kind of, tool for the enterprises. Still, we have seen that, adoption had been a challenge. You have led it in a bank like SBI, and where you can, when you imagine the whole setup of SBI, it is very like change resistive. How you say, like, on what context you have mentioned that the change is easy, and what kind of struggle you see as a leader, in terms of implementing those change or taking people through those change.
So I won't say that change is easy per se, but once people make up their minds that this is what I need to do, then change comes pretty easily. Okay. And in fact, I always say never waste a crisis, because people have the most, openness to change if there is a crisis. Then they are going to do anything and everything in order to, achieve whatever they need to achieve. Adoption, I agree with you, is a challenge. Now, why is it a challenge? Adoption is a challenge because people automatically like to do things the way they have always done it. It's a zone of comfort. Moving out of a zone of comfort is not simple. Okay. So you have to give them some kind of incentives in order to move out of the zone of comfort. It could be an incentive, it could be a disincentive. I'll talk about an automaker, and we had just implemented the dealer management system for them, but nothing was moving, adoption wasn't happening. And we requested the management that please trust in us. And while launching one of your SUVs, turn off the old system, which you still have running, for your top 30 dealers. Just turn it off and tell them they have to use the new system. Now, you can imagine the kind of risk that that management took with us, turning off the old system with their top 30 dealers. But because they trusted in us, those dealers actually gave them 7x the bookings. 7x the bookings. After that rollout was simple. They simply turned off the system and told everybody you've got to adopt because it's going to be good for you.
Yeah.
And things at this point of time, we are almost wall to wall with them. So somewhere you need a push. You know, people will always want to stay on the sides and not get into the cold water of a swimming pool. But if you push them into the pool, then after that, you know, they will float.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, we need to also make an organization a learning organization. That's something that I tried to do in SBI, where we had kept certain marks on the annual reports on the basis of the trainings that you completed. Okay. Now, this was not something that was ever done, because your annual report is supposed to be a report on the way that you have acted, the way you have achieved your goals. But we kept aside a few marks. So 10 marks were kept aside in order to make sure that all the learning courses that we were recommending for you, that you were actually doing them. Okay. And this was not an easy decision. There was a lot of pushback from the employees. But at the end of the day, even the union people supported us, because they realized if our people don't learn, they will become irrelevant.
Yeah.
Okay. So they couldn't allow that to happen, and therefore ultimately they came around and they said, okay, we will support you, because this is what is going to turn our organization into an organization that welcomes change and doesn't resist it all the time.
Do you see this more often now, the difference between the government organization employees as, you know, compared to the corporate, now that you're here? The government employees are probably not very, you know, adaptable, or they don't want to learn more, or they're happy in what they are doing, whereas corporate, there's this competition of you know, learning more and doing better and, you know, learning faster. Is it?
No, it is not like that.
Okay.
You know, sometimes I think I should write a book saying, you know, public sector and private sector myths and truths.
Okay.
You know, so it's not like that in the public sector. In the public sector also, there is a lot of energy and a willingness to learn. For instance, you know, when we had our foreign department, which is our forex treasury in Calcutta, of all the places, and we implemented a reconciliation system. It is one of the first platforms that we implemented, first technology solutions that we implemented. There was a lot of, you know, anxiety and a lot of fear that things will go wrong because people there would not adopt and things like that. Far be it from there, means from their apprehensions. Actually speaking, people adopted like duck to water. Of course, there was some initial resistance. Okay. And actually speaking, what I did even before I brought in the solution, we took desktops and scattered them all across the floors. And sometimes people would come and complain to me, you know, people are playing on the desktops. I used to tell them that's precisely what I want them to do. Get used to it. So let them play. If they're playing solitaire on the desktop, let them play. Whatever they play, let them play on the desktops. But then slowly what happened, people started coming in earlier and earlier in order to capture the places where the desktops were there. Because, you know, they had something that they liked doing. Okay. And then I got a delegation of very senior people, and I thought, here it comes, the trouble, and they're going to, you know, ask me for all kinds of things. So I girded myself and I welcomed them in. But they looked very sheepish. And I asked, what can I do for you? And they said, no, you know, we would like very much for you to organize some trainings for us. The youngsters are getting so far ahead. They are able to use all of these things, and we are not able to catch it. So please organize a training for us. I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'll get the training for you. But they have another request. So I said, okay, now here it comes. But then they said the training will have to be at 7 in the morning. So I said, why? They said, no, we are embarrassed to learn in front of them. No, you have to understand what is stopping them. It's not that they don't want to learn, but they're embarrassed about asking questions. Okay, so you do the training at 7 in the morning for them. That's precisely how the whole thing went. And when we put in the reconciliation software, it was a total success. It was a total success, not only in view of the fact that the people used it, but also when I ran into issues, my local IT team could give me a solution before even the Singaporean company provided it to me. They located the problems there and then, and they had just learned the system. So I think, it's not public sector, private sector. It's a question of the way you, lead the whole effort. If you give them the permission to say that, yes, this is what we want to do and this is what we have to do in order to be the best, they will be it. There is absolutely no, public sector,
Yeah,
private
because
sector.
the same problem is in private sector as well. You
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
find that everyone is very motivated or going to learn.
It's not like that at all.
Yeah.
It's not like that at all.
So, for our women audience, now that you've been telling us about your experiences, what exactly is required? A man of steel, competence, or thinking out of the box to come to a level where you can think of being in a leadership position?
No, first of all, you don't need to be a man of steel at all. Okay. So in fact, when I became chairman, a lot of people told me, "Abhi thoda sa danda lagao," because otherwise things won't move. I said, I've not done it so many years. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. So I don't think I'll be able to do it. You don't need to do that.
Okay.
But I do think you have to lead from the front, and not always. In times of crisis, people expect you to be in the front and to give direction. You need to know your job in order to be able to do that. So first and foremost is you need to understand what you are doing and what you are talking about. Second thing is you lead from the front when the situation so warrants. And the third thing is when the situation is not like that, things are good, step back and allow people to have their space. Sell the vision to them and thereafter allow them to arrive at the routes they will take in order to arrive there. And you will find a lot of stuff getting done. Because, we have only two hands and one head. We have only 24 hours. How much can you get done then? If you're not able to delegate well, then you won't get a whole body of work done. So even like when we were doing, say, in SBI, even as we were bringing in YONO, digitizing it. Even at the same time, there were other people that were working on risk management systems. There were other people that were, that we were setting up the CSR foundation at that point of time, trying to do good for the community. There were even other people that were looking at the building and how to make that look better. The SBI building, you remember, it used to have little mosaics outside. And those mosaics used to keep falling off and hurting, people and cars. We had a very ugly looking net so that, it wouldn't fall on people themselves. So we took all of that away and we clad it with aluminum cladding so that it looks beautiful. And it requires minimum, this thing, what do you call it? Maintenance. And the cladding is such that it can be recycled. So it had everything. So, these are all different groups doing different jobs. But we could go get a lot done because once they understand the direction and they feel aligned to it, and almost sometimes has to tell them to come up with it so that they can own what the outcome should be, then you give them enough space, you'll see that people really respond. A lot can get done.
And what experiences of SBI did you use in Salesforce? And what was your brief when you were, recruited here and you were poached here, I would say?
No, I was recruited because by that time I had left SBI and I was in a non-executive portfolio, being a little restive about it because I did quite like the non-executive piece. So the kind of experiences I brought in, I think, are many. In the sense that in SBI, because it's a public sector, you can't do things like hire and fire. Okay, you have to find a person's strong points in order to be able to give them the job that will best serve not only the person but also the organization, and the organization needs to come first there. Now, The private sector, on the other hand, they have very simple, rules. Either you throw money at a problem or you replace the person. Every time you replace a person, you're actually throwing away a lot of training that you have done for them, the knowledge that they have gained in the organization. So, how do you try and make sure you're not doing that? How do you ensure that the enablement is such that they are able to actually perform to their best level? Not only that, I think the main thing that I brought to this company is to try and create a customer first outlook, because I was a customer for 40 years. I was not one of the vendors. So the only thing I knew was what the customer felt and the pain that the customer went through, the difficulties that the customer had. So I tried to give that piece to my people in this company so that they would understand the other side of the table and not only think about what the difficulties are and why is the customer not responding and what is the customer's requirements actually, how do you make that you know uh, available to them. So I think my contribution was only that. And the other thing, of course, is the people skills that you develop over a period of time. After all, SBI was also a service organization, and so is Salesforce.
When you talk about CRM, immediately the first thing that comes to my mind is any helpline you call. You are being stuck there for 20 minutes, be it, I mean, I don't want to name the airlines and all, but it's like 20 minutes you're there on the helpline waiting and, in the queue and all that. Do you think, with Salesforce and such companies, those things are going to be over now?
It's not a question will be over. They are over. They are over. So if you go to our own helpline, help.salesforce.com, it's on an agentic layer. You won't have any wait time at all. And that's exactly what we are trying to tell the industry. You may want to reduce that that wait time, but that means you have to recruit another 200 people. Now, can you afford to do that? You can't. Because you can't afford to do that, you need to deploy the agents. So, we can give you digital labor that can enable you to take away that wait time completely. Not only that, we can give you this digital labor, and if you attach it to the right data context, it will give you answers that will be completely able to resolve your issues. Okay. And by the way, I don't know whether you have recently checked on some of the helplines. You should check on some of the helplines of the biggest airline we have in India, the two biggest, in fact, and because we are helping them modernize all of that.
Okay.
And I know that in one case, even the name changes that sometimes need to be done because the name is spelled wrongly on the boarding card, etc. We've agentified all of that, and it happens very smoothly. So the thing is, agents actually can give you that ability to improve your customer service by a great extent. Not only by being available all the time, but also by giving you the right answers. And just in case you don't get the right answer once, we can always, there is an auditable trail. We can see where it went wrong and rectify it so that that particular mistake will never happen again. And if you go to our help.salesforce.com, at this point of time, more than 80% of those calls, there is first call resolution by agents themselves. It's only 2% of those calls that ultimately go to manual agents. Okay. And this, by the way, is a helpline that helps post implementation, meaning that actually speaking, earlier engineers were manning them. Now, the next question that comes, what happened to the engineers?
Yeah.
They've all been redeployed. Okay. Within Salesforce, and they've been been redeployed in actual customer facing roles, not behind the telephones. They are actually at customer sites as forward deployed engineers, helping customers to implement agentic enterprise. So actually speaking, doing a much better job and getting much better customer success that way.
Also, Salesforce has reported significant growth under your leadership. So, how much of that is like India growth and how much innovation is coming from India?
Actually speaking, now almost every single team that we have in the US also has is co-located here in India.
Okay.
So there is a lot of innovation that's coming out of India. There's no doubt about it. Many of our solutions, most of our solutions, we have teams in India working on them as well. So it's not that everything is being done here. Bits and pieces get done, but we are part of the chain that contributes to each of these solutions. As I said, most of the teams are co-located here. So there is a big contribution that India does to the Salesforce solutions. Having said that, even in respect of sales and distribution, we have shown good growth. We are one of the fastest growing OUs still. And in respect of our global support, we are today the second largest installation for Salesforce outside of the US.
Wow. Great. Mayank, you want to ask something?
No, ma'am, on this front, when you spoke about the Salesforce adoption and all, we have seen like prior to your leadership, prior to you join Salesforce, there were not much of the traction about um, uh, organization, especially you mentioned about big airlines looking to adopt or looking to implement Salesforce as a tool, and it was not very popular in Indian context, but India was delivering services outside. When you look at any major corporation, they were being serviced by Indian, and Indian engineers were implementing it and deploying it. So we had the talent, we had the skill set, we had everything here, but still the Indian corporates were not going for Salesforce implementation. So what, when you joined, this must have been the problem. So how you tackle that problem? What was, how you convinced Indian firms to go for Salesforce?
So there were a few things that we had to do on our side as well. One was, of course, there was a fear about cloud, public cloud, but there were still a number of private organizations that were okay with it, but they also wanted data localization. So I joined in April 2020. In October 2020, we started the local instance of what we call Hyperforce, which is basically where your data resides. And that started in India in October of 2020. So that gave us a little more, help. The second thing was that they didn't want billing in dollars because there is an uncertainty about where the dollar will be. So the billing in rupees started in May of 2021. So we had to do a few things ourselves in order to match up with the expectations of industry. And I think doing these things have definitely helped us in actually approaching industry and then, expanding on our footprint here.
No, definitely, ma'am, that billing had helped because we are both customer of Salesforce because we use Salesforce internally, both the account management as well as the Sales Cloud, and we deliver services to clients as well. So when it got changed to rupees, it helped a lot in terms of, and I think that had
So
played a.
I came in with the request that these two have to be done. Only then I'm going to come in. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been. I wouldn't have been able to make it.
And you said that the customer perspective. So from a customer lens, also I can say that this had made a big difference.
So that's where I came from. I said that the customers need these two things. If you're okay about doing these two things, then okay, I'm in. But if you don't do these two things, then even me coming in is not going to help you much.
I have two built-up questions.
Yeah, sure.
So one is, ma'am, that India being a very price-sensitive market, and here I have witnessed when working, because our major business, we get quite a good traction when we work with UK or US. But in Indian market, there are two aspects. One is people look at you from your size, they judge from your size, and second, in terms of when it comes to service, which is intangible, it is very hard to price it, or they ask for, okay, what is the cost before telling you the requirement. Whereas when you go and sell a product which is tangible, people are willing to pay. So having the affordability is not a problem, but the mindset is that I will pay only when I can see the things. And you must have faced this challenge when you are approaching big corporates about, and the cost comes in. And Salesforce is, as an organization, works in a very license model, and the cost structure is very clear. But still, have you faced this kind of dilemma? And,
yes,
and how you deal with it?
We have faced a lot of it. The one thing that we had changed initially was that we don't sell too many licenses initially, or you ramp the licenses. You sell a certain amount of licenses that have to be sold in order to start the project, and then you ramp up the licenses once it all goes live. That is one. The second thing is we have been constantly trying to see how we can bring down and make more efficient the implementation itself. And today, in view of all the tools that are available with AI, actually speaking, the implementation times are coming down.
Yes.
They're reducing sharply. We don't need to just show PowerPoints anymore. We can show almost 2/3 built products to them so that they know exactly what they are getting. Okay. Regarding people's idea about, the services itself, yes, there is in India a tendency to do a lot of bargaining because they are not sure that, exactly what they want will get delivered, and therefore they are always trying to make sure that doesn't happen. My own feeling is we have seen best success where the customer meets us halfway. If they are willing to give their time, if they are willing to deliver the stuff to us, for instance, the time to deliver certain APIs is a particular thing, they miss those dates. It cannot be blamed on the implementer. Similarly, they're supposed to deliver data at a particular point of time. The data doesn't come through. Similarly, also, there is what is called scope creep. So I want you to do things certain way. Then you do it. I look at it and I say, oh, no, 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 no. I also want these three other things. Now, those are basically change requests, and there have to be ways in which we can tell the customer, that's great. Those are bells and whistles. Let's go live with the main product, and I will do all of your bells and whistles, but it will be a stage 2. Okay. Now, there again, we don't want to say that because we don't want to lose the customer. We want the customer to feel that we are doing the right thing. So we do it, and then it becomes a problem because there is a time overrun, there's a cost overrun. So there are many issues, you cannot all discuss it in a short interview. But I have felt all of these issues are solvable and are absolutely, they can be doable if I find that the customer meets me halfway. Okay, then it's not intractable. Then it's something that can easily be, not easily maybe sometimes, but they can definitely be overcome.
So, but man, the customer were also there and Salesforce were also there, but you have certainly made that difference when you came at the helm in Salesforce India, because the kind of the market, like you yourself mentioned that India is now the second leading market up after US where Salesforce implementation is going on. So it definitely comes down to the leaders. So from a leadership perspective, what are the key decisions that you took?
So from a leadership perspective, one thing that I always tell my customers is that, I'm not just a vendor. I'm too old to be one. Okay. I would like to be a partner. Okay. So one thing I will not do is walk away. It's not that I'm an OEM, I sell you the product and I simply walk away. In earlier times when it was on-prem, they'd give us the CDs and that would be the end of it. Till such time the time came to renew it or give a separate upgrade it. Okay. I'm not that. Even though I may not be doing the implementation, a partner may be doing the implementation, I will be there with you. I will help you adopt. I will help you create a center of excellence within your IT team. And it may be a 2-member team, 3-member team, it doesn't matter. But I will create some Salesforce experts within your team. And I will be there till such time as you feel that you're successful, unless you want us to get away. But if not that, then I will do whatever it takes on my side to walk the talk with you. So that at least I tell my customers, and when I say this, I mean it. And my people know that I mean it. They know that, I will not allow them to walk away, that they had better make things successful.
And one candid question, man. Like I am attending, as I mentioned that I'm using Salesforce or have implemented Salesforce long back since 2006 and 7. And I have attended many Dreamforce and have seen it growing, evolving. And when we go to Dreamforce, we have always seen, the keynote from Mark Benioff coming in, and he's a very he's a visionary. When he comes, he gives you the goosebump. His all styles. He carries a big aura, and so his personality and his approach. And when it is comes down to you joining and you working with him in India, how do you find that relationship working with him? Because I see that there's two contradictory personalities.
He is very different. He is very, very different. I'm nowhere near that. Okay, so let's not even think about it. But we have a very good relationship as such. So anything at all, he will message, and so will I. It's in a way, this company is not a very hierarchical company. It's a very flat company. You can message anybody anytime and you will get a response. You only need to know which channel you need to message on, which is the channel that they are most comfortable with, whether it is Slack or email or iMessage or WhatsApp, whatever it is. Everybody has their favorite. Though all of us officially use Slack, and we do. Most of the time we do, but then, if you want to send private messages, you might use some other channel. But Mark basically is quite a visionary, because if you look at the way he went about doing things, in the sense that he became a cloud native company when clouds were not that common. He created the SaaS model as well. Okay. Even when in the AI journey, we were the only ones, I think, that had an office for the humane and ethical use of technology as early as 2014. When we first started predictive AI, from then on, we've had this office. And this office actually looks at whatever products we're putting out, whatever processes we're putting out. Similarly, while in Copilot, actually, our competitors came in earlier to us, we were a little delayed on account of the fact that we were still working on the trust layer, because we are a B2B company, we are not a B2C. And the trust layer is very important for a B2B. And the trust layer basically ensures that whatever data you give us, it remains yours, that there is no way that it's getting out and things like that. But even then, where agents were concerned, we actually came in first. And the agent force was something that was named by us only. So we are evolving all the time. Today, for instance, we are there with headless agents, meaning you don't need any stack beneath, which is Salesforce. I can have my agents ride on any stack that you already have. So we are coming with innovations every day. Earlier, like you said, our pricing model was one, which was per user per month, PUPM, as we called it. But today we are doing it on account of consumption. We are even looking at outcome-based pricing. So the pricing models are also changing. So the company itself is very agile, and it changes very, very swiftly. So you really have to keep up with the change, which is
and
which
one
is
thing
quite a
I must say
lot.
that Salesforce is the first company that democratizes knowledge by getting access of knowledge to partners and creating that kind of that ecosystem. Earlier it was more like people wanted to protect knowledge and keep it to them so that they can work with the customer and only they know how to do it. What Salesforce did is like, if you want to be a partner, you want to learn, here is the learning kit. This is how you can get certification. And that helped, not only to multiple engineers or millions of engineers across the globe, but also to customers in terms of democratization of that knowledge.
You spoke about his speech. I would want to ask, how is it working with different generations, and in an absolute different kind of an atmosphere now? Yeah.
That is, by the way, very difficult.
Okay.
So I work with almost 5 generations.
So you know the Gen Z
Yeah,
slang
yeah,
now?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's not that I understand it,
Okay.
but I'm trying to forever understand, because it's English and yet not English. Sometimes I tell them to translate it for me, but that's not every time. And yes, it is difficult, because their priorities, by the way, are very different from our priorities. And to say that they are wrong is also not correct. So not
How
only
different?
that, because their work-life balance is very important. We used to work like crazy, and I don't know whether it was the right thing to do, because all of us are paying for it with our health.
Yeah.
Okay. Then the second thing about them is that they are very conscious. They're very conscious, like, things like sustainability, etc. We had no consciousness about it when we joined our respective organizations. They like a purpose behind what they are doing. And which is why I think, the fact that we are a very, a company that does a lot of CSR work. We have this 1 by 1 by 1 policy, which means we give 1% of our equity or profits, and in India it's 2%, and 1% of our products and 1% of our time to the non-profit sector. And 1% of products means we actually give them licenses to run their, like if you're a not-for-profit organization, you want to run a database of your sponsors, you want to run a database of the people that you have helped. So all of that can be done with our licenses. We have created these for the non-profit sector. Okay. And these licenses up to a limit are given absolutely free of cost. Beyond that, they are heavily discounted. And then 1% of our time means each one of us gets a week paid holiday in order to go and volunteer at the place of your choice.
Okay.
And by the way, we also have to log in those volunteer hours to make sure that we are actually doing the work and not taking off and going somewhere else.
Because I recall when you joined SBI, I think you were 21 years old.
Yes.
And you
21
have
and a half.
And you have 21 years old now in your company?
Yeah, yeah.
So how different do you feel?
It's very different. It's very different. And that's
Okay.
what I'm saying. Like, children are so different. Sometimes you can't call them children anymore. They're working. But for me, they're almost like children, right? It's different. But having said that, I think the generation is far more attuned to the current AI age. They like pick it up very, very quickly. Of course, you have to keep guiding them. Because at any point of time, something like this happens, you have to be sure that they're understanding that there are risks to it as well, and you have to keep guiding them. But if you understand them, then they're really good.
We're good
And
friends.
not only friends, for the first time, I have far more reverse mentors than I ever had mentors.
Okay.
I learned so much from them. I really understood the concept of reverse mentoring after coming in here, because without their help, I wouldn't be able to do anything. They've taught me so much.
Wow, that's interesting. So, and you've seen technological disruptions throughout your life in your career. Computerization in banking, then we had digital banking, and now we have AI. So, do you think this fear about AI that certain people have, is it different this time? Is it like once in a generation, once in a lifetime? And other side is either you learn fast or you fall behind.
Actually, that question is very pertinent, because I believe this is a one of a kind step change. We had industrial revolutions. This is really an AI revolution, because AI is not something incremental. It's it's a leapfrogging. Okay, because for the first time, the solution or the application understands what you are saying in your natural language. Okay. Now, communication, as you know, is the basis of a lot of things. If I'm not communicating, I'm locked away from a lot of things. Today, for the first time in my own language, without knowing any of the computer languages, I can actually interact with this application. What it does is it democratizes things to a huge extent. And the moment something gets democratized, it becomes a huge impact. Okay. So neither do you have to put the input in a structured way. In an unstructured way, the application can understand what you're saying. Nor do you have to wait for it to structure the thing in order to get it back. It generates, it's actually generates the answer in order to fit your understanding. Okay. So because of this democratization effect, what happens is that the whole world opens up hugely. And obviously, applications, computer applications, they can process many more points of data than a human mind can. Okay. So it can process billions of points of data, and therefore it becomes very powerful. Okay. So for me, and not only for me, generally, we believe that the AI age is actually another of those industrial revolutions. And therefore, it is very important for us to understand that we want to be part of it. This is not something that will go away. This is not like your blockchain that might have limited applications. This is something which is going to impact your daily lives. And if it is going to impact your daily lives, you better know what it's all about, And that is why you have to lean in. Again, leaning in does mean that you are putting aside your doubts and your worries, and you're actually being curious about it. If you are curious about it, slowly you will begin to understand that while you can still fear it because it seems to know so much and seems to give you so much, but then you can also use it. Because many of the subjects that I had no idea about, I can read about it in minutes.
Absolutely.
Okay. So it makes you far more enabled. It gives you far more power to do things. Today, for instance, of course, we used to go to these, for medical, this thing.
Tests.
It's not only tests for medical advice, etc. We used to use the internet earlier also. Today, what we are getting is far superior to what used to get them. Now, does that mean that the doctors are no longer there? No. It just means that we ask far more, what should I say?
Intelligent questions.
Questions
Yeah.
to the doctors. And in a way, it's good because it makes the doctors also think on those lines and give you those answers. Plus, if you look at the fact that we are a country of 1.4 billion people, We cannot give them the services that they deserve unless I use AI. If you go into a state hospital today, the doctors hardly have time to even take down your symptoms before they prescribe you something because the pressure is so enormous. Now, imagine using an AI tool over there where you just speak your symptoms. The tool is able to record all of that, come up with a preliminary diagnosis, give it to the doctor as you are entering the room, and maybe, just speak it to him, not even read it. The doctor then can actually interact with you and do a far better diagnosis because he's actually looking at the patient, has the time to do that instead of having to scribble all the time. So, like that, there are so many use cases. I'll give you a simple use case we are doing within our organization here. I had a 5-member team that used to do market research. I could only cover the large accounts that were there in my enterprise department, okay, because they couldn't do more than that. It would take them 8-10 hours to come up with a really well-researched report. Today, I'm able to have a market report on every one of my customers, down to the smallest $5,000 or a $1,000 customer, okay. And not only am I doing it for India, now that I'm also in charge of the ASEAN countries, we are able to do also the ASEAN countries with only those 5 people. Okay, I have not been able to, because I would not have been able to afford a bigger team, but I'm able to get much more intelligence. Now, what does that do for me? It gives me much more ability to actually improve my business. So if you say that, are you not taking away employment opportunities? I wouldn't have been able to employ more than 5 in a market research team. That's the budget I had. So there was no employment that's losing. But because I have
The productivity goes up.
yeah, because I have greater knowledge, actually speaking, my salespeople can go out and sell more. So I can actually improve on the number of salespeople that I have. So it is going to unlock opportunities which otherwise were getting missed out because I didn't have a opportunity of understanding that those things were there.
So it's more like so many untapped opportunities
That's
that you
right.
can
That's right.
tap, and that means if you're doing more, it will ultimately then generate employment as well, increase the productivity. So it's overall
That's
going to give you benefits.
That's why I keep saying that you have to dive into it, look into it. Fear will always be there because we fear the unknown. We don't know to what extent it will go. But if you give way to that, then you will be like a deer in the headlights. You'll not be able to move. Don't do that.
So, what would your advice be for students or maybe this generation which is growing up with the smartphone, uh, that all the other professions are not going to get redundant and they should just do what their heart says, what their creative mind says,
Absolutely.
whatever?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I keep saying this, and I don't know whether I'm saying the right thing, but I think it actually gives human beings the time to be human again. We were too overloaded with the screen. We were too overloaded. Just imagine a festival day. Think of the number of messages that you had to respond on the phone. Okay. Now today, if I can get an agent to respond to those messages for me, I can pick up the phone and talk to the 20 people that really matter to me. Now those 20 people also I was managing through messages because I didn't have time to even pick up the phone and talk or do a visit. If you you may not have done it, but when we were young in Diwali, actually we used to go from place to place, and we used to have, I don't know how many number of sweets. Probably that's what's giving me all the trouble now. But anyway, we used to do that.
But you were meeting people, you were interacting with them. Yeah.
Today, I have more time on my hands because all the regular stuff, which I don't have to look at, they are getting taken care of. And I'm able to actually be, get more time to interact with people directly.
But this generation is interacting with the chatbots and ChatGPT and Claude. So there has to be some balance.
Yes, there has to be. A friend of mine, in fact, has named her ChatGPT friend GPT. I told her that please stop interacting with that friend and interact more with this friend. So that's what I sent to her because that is true. That is true. And whether it will replace human interconnections, we don't know. But it is a fact that for many people, and especially I think I see this in older people, where it's difficult for them to go out. It's difficult for them to even maybe hear. They have hearing difficulties or mobility difficulties. ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude literally become like a friend. They have conversations. And now, is that a bad thing or a good thing? Don't really know. But I think of after a period of time, the novelty of it, wears off, and then you want to go back to your human connections again.
So, India, if India wants to become by 2047 a developing country, do you think it's actually feasible right now with the kind of situation we are in? And what needs to be done with AI also here?
So I would say that in India, anything is feasible. Anything. So I have a lot of faith in the way, India reacts to situations. And I always say this because I think demonetization may have been whatever it was, but the way we managed that whole exercise, the sheer size of it, and the a small amount of time that we had to organize ourselves, it was much more than I think much, I won't say much more, but it was like a military logistical exercise. If we could do something like that, I think we can do anything. So becoming a developed country, I would very much like it to happen.
Any 2-3 priorities that India should take
Yeah,
up?
I definitely think that there are priorities. One thing, of course, is that we have to ensure that our education system really caters to the modern age. Okay, rote-led education is not going to cut it. You have to ensure that people are more creative, they're getting the right inputs, being asked to think. Thinking is very important now. Okay, the second thing that
How difficult will that be to change? I mean, considering your 35 years.
I would say that if you want to do it, you can do it. Okay, but you need to want to do it. I don't think it's very difficult to change. Yes, the curriculum may have to change, the books may have to change, but I definitely feel that the way that we are delivering education is not what we need to do.
And I think, ma'am, on this, like, it's not only the onus on the universities or the government. It's more like, the industry also needs to come together.
Yeah,
it's more like it's
absolutely.
about the industry academy collaboration, which I'm
Industry
very
academy
advocates of.
collaboration, and not only that, even for parents and things like that. It's not a question of competing with each other.
Yes.
It's a question of ensuring that what your child is doing is unique, that your child is thinking in a different way.
And one thing, on the education side, I also feel, ma'am, that our education system so far is very much IQ driven and learning based. And you said that, now with AI coming in, the entire knowledge is available. So all what you need to do is know what question to ask. And,
Exactly.
and that requires more EQ driven knowledge.
True.
So that these are some of the shifts that needed, but
Absolutely.
everything onus can't be on university or on the government. It's more like, as a society, we need to think what is
And that
right.
brain drain will also stop probably then.
See, there are a lot of people who are wanting to come back and do things here. A lot of people. Earlier, I used to see that I was in IIT Kharagpur. The entire class would go abroad. Entire class. As they passed, all of them would go abroad. Today, a lot of them stay back. Even people who are coming, who are gold medalists, they are staying back in order to do things over here. People in class 11, class 12, they are setting up their startups. So there is a very vibrant startup ecosystem, and that's something that I really like. People are thinking differently. People are trying to solve problems, and it's solving of problems that's going to give you the business, right? Because if it's a problem, then it's not addressed. So it gives you a business opportunity. So
is that the reason we see a lot of defense startups coming up now? Because that has been promoted a lot.
defense startups are coming up because, again, as I said, the whole war concept has changed. War is now no longer physical. It's all in the virtual space. It's logical. It's, you need to have logical security more than just physical security. So technology plays such a huge part in it. And somewhere, the costs have come down, but in other places, costs have gone up hugely. So how do you make sure that you are, managing the two? So there is a lot that can be done over there. Okay. And because technology is playing such a huge part in it, that's why you see all of these startups coming up. They all want to innovate something, which is good. I'm sure there are a lot of, in the same way, there are a lot of startups that are coming up in the medical area, because there are so many unsolved problems over there. 2/3 of the, ailments that humanity has, I think, are still unsolved. Okay, so we don't have cures for them. You bear them. If you have a common cold today, there's no way of switching off the cold. You have to sit and bear it. That's it. So, there are so many things that are, still unsolved. And those unsolved problems are the things that people are going to attack now. And that's for the good of humanity. It will only mean that our standards of living will go up. Are there no risks? I will not say that. There are risks. You've seen that already. Just today, I think I read in the paper that even in Anthropic, one of the in this thing, one of the solutions that they had built, it had skipped its isolated platform into the, and it had attacked certain 3 other enterprises. It had managed to escape from its contained, this thing, environment. Yeah. So those problems, those concerns are always there. But just as there are concerns, there will be solutions. We need to take it on head on. Okay. And you said what other things? The other thing that I think, we should also look at is how do we make our infrastructure better and better? Infrastructure is absolutely primary for the good of everybody. People cannot be productive without the kind of infrastructure that's required. So I still think we have a lot of, distance to go on infrastructure. And the third thing I think we need to really understand is that we have to have a society that is corruption free. Okay. If you don't have that, then it's a big burden on society, and it's not something that enables people to give their best. So that's again something that we have to, as a society, we need to create something that will give people back their values, give people back the way to act, to be ethical. That is very important as well.
So, ma'am, like this is a question from a CEO's perspective. When you look at the transformation that is going on, especially on the area of AI, one aspect of, and when we work with the organization, we see that there are 2 approaches that organization take. One is where a CEO is very supportive and delegated, and to the say the technology team to drive that initiative, and there are other organizations where the CEO himself wants to lead it. Where do you see the probability of success? And if a CEO is leading it, what are the traits you would like to, you see that, the CEO should be having?
So, both can be successful if in the first case the delegation is an actual delegation. Okay. And if the CEO, while delegating, makes it very clear that it is his priority. Okay. So making this the CEO's priority is very important. Whether he's delegating or he's doing it himself. And if he's doing it himself, the way that I would like to see it is that he really understands what he wants, that he's not vague about, what the last outcome should be. He's very clear about what the use cases are and what he wants to see, that he lays out clear, KPIs that need to be, fulfilled by the time this whole thing goes. And the fact that, he gives time and, ensures that his people give the time that is required in order to do the right kind of governance of any such project. If you get these sort of things, then you have a winner on your hands.
That's very enlightening answer, ma'am. Thanks. And one last question from my end is on the CRM side, like we have seen CRM, evolving. First, it was a tool that was giving you to know your customers better. Then, inside Salesforce, you also integrated it, being Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud, Customer Success. So, kind of giving a 360 view and for your customer, but allowing you to know your customer better and takes the action. And till that time, human was analyzing the information and taking the call. Now we are moving towards the agent force, and where agents can recommend, can analyze, and can take action as well on your behalf. So you will be able to serve your customers better. But in this whole journey, and if we see 5 years, let's imagine 5-6 years ahead, let's say 2034 or 2035, where do you see how human evolving and what role human is going to play? So in one word, if I want to say, how much what is one part that you will say that we will not not give it to technology, but it will always be owned by humans.
So one thing, of course, is that we always recommend that a human is in the loop if the transaction is going to be very material. Okay, it is always good to have a good look. You can allow agents to do things autonomously if they are, if they are regular, they are not very, out of the way. If the impact is small, then it's okay. But what 5 years later, when agents become even much more smarter, what is it that I still think we will not outsource? It's basically the relationship building. It's basically the empathy. There are things that agents still won't know. Like if I know you as a human being, if I know you as a friend, the kind of conversation we will have will not exactly be the kind of conversation you can have with an agent. And that empathy and that relationship, I think, is very important. And I think it's very important, especially in the area of that you are talking about, like a customer, you're recommending something, because there are a few areas where customers still like the human touch. For instance, in the area of medicine, I remember even when we were kids, the moment the doctor used to walk into the room, half of our thing used to get wet. Even today, a doctor is expected to have a bedside manner. There is a term bedside manner because it means that the human being there is supportive, and that changes your psyche so that it then tends to get better. So as long as we are people with emotions, we are people with not only humans brains but also feelings, it's important to have a human in the loop to give support to that feeling. Because without the human in the loop, that goes away. It becomes a very, heartless transaction. And heartless transactions, at the end of the day, people don't like. They like efficiency. They like things to be done quickly. But they also like to say a few things.
Yes.
Like, for instance, I've seen that when we tried in SBI, for instance, we did a outreach to all our older pensioners saying that we will bring the money to your house, just register with us.
Yeah.
A lot of them refused because they said that is our one outing. Our one outing in the month. We want to go there and we like the people there. We meet our friends, we meet our, the people who serve us. They've been there for a while. We know everything about them, that their children are in college, what problems they are facing. We want to ask them. They didn't register. A lot of them didn't register. So even though, their children wanted them to register, because otherwise the children would have to bring them to us, they wouldn't. They said, no, this is something I want to go to the bank for.
Yeah, so this is what AI misses out on.
Exactly. This is exactly the thing that AI misses out.
So my last question is that there is a small controversy about a women leader in India, not reaching that kind of position because of certain things in India. Do you also agree with it? You've gone through it, and what would your message be for young women?
So my message for young women is that you have to stay the course. We have a lot of dropouts in the middle of the career. And the dropouts are not without reason, because there is childcare, there is care of older parents or parents-in-law, there are other issues that come up as a result of which women drop out. At some point of time, they take a call that this is more important and that isn't. I'm not saying that family is not more important. It absolutely is. It's the reason why you're working. But having said that, the reason that you're dropping out for, maybe somebody's ill or something or the other, it's temporary in nature. And therefore, it is up to the organizations to see how they will retain the woman. Allow that woman flexi time. Allow that woman to work remotely. There are so many ways today that we can allow them not to go off the workforce. Just allow them to work remotely for whatever time it takes for the person to get better. And then they will come back. So earlier, we didn't have the capability of doing all of that. Nowadays, we have the entire capability of doing all of this. And now people will say that means everything is still on the woman. No, if a man is taking care of his father, let him stay at home and work remotely. Or a woman has to do a lot of touring. The man doesn't have to. Allow him to be at home while his children are young.
The mindset needs to be
changed. We need to change the mindset. We need to change the way we are supporting women, because the reason why we are not having enough women leadership is because the pipeline suddenly becomes very thin in the middle of the career. People just have to drop off because they can't manage both. make it possible for them to manage both. And there it's the responsibility of the company, it's the responsibility of the management, not only of those people, our employees, to manage the whole ship.
Right.
We need to show up for them.
Any one-liner that any CEO should take away from this message
Oh,
today?
there's so many. It is so enlightening conversation. But some of the things that which will always I will encourage all the fellow CEOs is one is that EQ is going to be very important in the AI era. You should adapt it, not to fear it, and ultimately it's going to be a leadership transformation. As a CEO, you need to lead it from the front, whether you delegate it or you own it, but you have to finally lead it.
You have to have your commitment there.
Yes.
Your commitment needs to show. If your commitment doesn't show, people can understand these things, and they're very sensitive. So even without speaking, which AI needs prompts, but people don't need prompts. They'll look at you, and from your body language, they'll make out that this is something this person is not really interested in.
And at the end,
You can't allow that.
Yeah.
and at the end, human need empathy, and this is what is with us, and we should nurture it and grow it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for this lovely conversation, and thank you, Mayank, for being here.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
So here's what I'm taking away. A woman who started her career in a room that wasn't built for her, transformed an institution that the country runs on, and then walked into one of the biggest technology transformations the world has ever seen. Not as an observer, but as a leader. What Arundhati ma'am stories tell us is that the most enduring advantage anyone can have is not the technology they understand, but the judgment they have built over a lifetime. And perhaps that is the most important thing to hold on to in this AI age. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, Mayank.